Hello and welcome to Blackhawk TV's production of BW hosting Amery here tonight. Girls Hoops. We've got the JV game coming up here in just about a minute. My name's Jordan Lehman, joined by cameraman Zach Ambrose and Jeremy Nygaard. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. So, a rematch for these two teams. They've seen each other before. December 2nd, one of the first conference games, if not the well, not the first one, but one of the first conference games in the year for both teams in Amery earlier this season. The varsity action in that one, the girls for BW pulled out a close win. Not quite sure, Nygaard, do you remember how that JV contest went?
You know, I don't remember how the JV contest went. I believe, at a 7th grade boys basketball game.
Okay.
So I don't know. I feel like we won, but I don't remember if it was close or not real close.
Nonetheless, here we go. And so I'm going to give some lineups for both teams. That was Jenna Livingston for the Blackhawks with the first two. She's number 33. Number 23 is Abigail Nielsen. For BW, number 21 is Mara Nygaard. 33 is Haley Maurer. And 42 is Maggie Jensen. Jensen and Maurer, freshmen. Nielsen, Livingston, and Nygaard, sophomores. For Amery, we've got number 33, Marissa Fisk. She's a freshman. Number 12, Grace Williamson, a freshman. 42, Emma Johnson. She's a junior. 32, Marissa Fisk.
You said her already.
Did I? Oh, okay. I'm not sure. 32 is not on the roster. I must have put those two together. Maybe that's Elise Hoffman, a freshman, who is on the varsity roster here. Anyways, number 40 as well, Ariana Abraham. She's a freshman.
That's going to be the theme of the night. This Amery team at the varsity level has 4 freshmen that are that were really good against us actually when we played earlier in the year. And you know, when you look at the roster, you see one sophomore, one senior who I don't even believe saw the floor when we played earlier, and just a couple juniors, no sophomores. So, you know, this program is certainly the future looks brighter because there are a good number of promising freshmen on this roster.
Yeah, it's exciting. Amery, a team that only a handful of years ago was trying to make a state push, was very competitive in the Middle Border Conference. Last names like Granica. And over the last couple of years has gone through what you could call a rebuild, but like you mentioned, their top 2 scorers this season are freshmen. There's a junior in there as well that's been a main contributor, but nonetheless these girls will bring back a lot next season and looking to make some noise here down the stretch. I believe they beat Osceola recently. They do have 2 conference wins at the varsity level. So yeah, making strides, which is a good sign. But for the JV action, looks like the Hawks, Mara Nygaard had another 2. That's going to be a deep 3 for Nielsen. So the total is 4-0 currently.
Yeah, I was really impressed when we went to Amery with how they played. You know, I think, you know, we talked about it. We did that preview, and Gabe Brotzel, the head coach, he's been here a number of years and he's had success, but really lost a lot of what he had. Obviously, his daughter is a good junior, Grace Carlson, another junior that started last year, but you just didn't really know what else they had, and they've looked good in the game that I saw them. Obviously. That's a small sample, but you know, like I said, the future is bright.
It's a good take there by Marin Nygaard, so 6-0 now.
And I think a couple of these freshmen, they're not going to. Here you go, Mars.
Nygaard for 3, so 7 early points for the sophomore.
Preparing.
There you go. Zach Ambrose on the mic. It's hot.
Tough take from Nielsen. He's going to take that one away.
Yep, take it, take it. You gotta.
Absolutely. Heat check. Looks like we're going to have 4 subs in for BW. Livingston trying to get that ball back. We're going to have a timeout, 30-second timeout. 5 subs in for BW after this timeout. So we're going to have number 55, Castell, 51, Coda, 53, Sorensen, Mikla, number 13, and 25, Raya Elke.
So I'm assuming that Raya playing in the first half in the JV game will mean that she plays both halves and is available one half. Both her and Maren have been kind of on the yo-yo here with how many halves of JV they play, how many halves of varsity they're available, and even when we coached, it wasn't ideal to play the JV game first.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, logistically for fans and such, and playing the big game later. But as a coach, if you can get players in 2 halves of the varsity game, you only play them 1 half of JV. If you're not going to get a kid in the varsity game, play him 2 halves of JV, and you just don't know otherwise. So
right.
Sometimes it becomes a bummer for these girls because they can't contribute, and it's not exclusive to this group, but you can't contribute to a win or feel like you're contributing as much to a win when you're not playing the second half of a JV game.
Yeah.
And then you sit and you don't play at all in the varsity game, and it's hard. Because ultimately you feel like you're not part of either team. And I think a lot of kids have experienced that over the course of the years, and as coaches it's hard to do the right thing all the time.
Yeah, that's one thing that brings up kind of the umbrella point of how difficult it is to be the coach of a varsity program, or just a program at a high school, right? Not because of necessarily even the basketball or the football schematics strategy, but because when you are the head coach, there's a lot that you have to do, and people expect all of it to be done correctly.
Right.
And there's 2 sides to that coin. I mean, it should be done correctly, and that's the expectation, and that's why you expect the coach gets into what they're getting into. And I've talked with and listened to, had the privilege to listen to a number of very successful coaches, mostly football coaches that, because of Kiefer, his connections, listening to conversations he has where guys will have, different strategies in, communicating with parents, communicating with boosters, communicating with administration, and the best ones, take all of that very seriously. But that's something that, definitely comes with time, comes with making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. Because you and I both know well, lots of experience coaching, Amerman or cameraman Ambrose as well. I mean, nothing is unseen, nothing is unheard most of the time. So you got to be on the ball.
And the thing that you hear too, the phrase is, you don't know what you don't know. It's like if you come into a job and not even just a coaching job, but really any job, and you think you know everything you're supposed to know.
Yep, you're wrong.
Because there's just things you don't know, and that's what I think now and I've been into just this whole NFL coaching cycle that they just churn through these guys, and I don't remember what I was reading, but the big discussion was they're not even looking for, like in these interviews, they're not looking for guys to X and O.
Correct. They're
not looking for. Basically, they're trying to hire a CEO of a $1 billion company, and how they can get people to have follow their vision, and it's not necessarily the best X and O guy. It's the guy that can create a culture, establish a culture, and then lead a group of men. And obviously, it's harder when it's adults,
right?
And they're getting paid a astronomical amount of money to do these things. But it's certainly a an interesting dynamic,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
you know, I'm glad we did it. Or I can't speak for you. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I love doing it. Um, but like a lot of people that coach, they hang it up, and what do? They put a headset on and they just talk about it. It's
Yeah,
easier.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
there you go. It's a good start here for the Hawks.
Yeah, they've jumped out to a 13-0 lead. We're about 6 minutes into this JV game. 16-minute halves for JV contests. We're going to have 18-minute halves for the varsity portion.
You were just telling me today you think Sean Payton will be in the booth soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he should, because he knows everything that there is to know about football.
Yeah, with the new wave of, and it's almost, it's not coming to an end, but about 3 years ago, the whole offensive head coach explosion with guys like Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, which, to their credit, have been super successful. People don't understand that, like Sean Payton, in the same way that people talk about Bill Walsh, in the 80s, Sean Payton was like the offensive coach. Like that was his deal. Is he could come up with schemes and strategies to have offenses explode. Obviously, Drew Brees didn't hurt that cause. Similar to Andy Reid.
Right.
Some of these guys that McVay and Shanahan and LaFleur might get a little bit more airtime. But Andy Reid's been doing it for a long time. Sean Payton did it for a very long time. I'm curious, was it because Breeze was with the Chargers for a couple years.
Yep. He came in the same year as Michael Vick.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember exactly how long Sean Payton's been there.
I think it was it 2006 that he started?
Yeah.
I think I saw 15 years when I saw him today.
I read just a very brief thing today about how they knew, I don't remember even who it was, but how he knew that Sean Payton was going to be the one, essentially. And the quote was someone that worked for the Eagles, maybe their GM. Good job by Raya there, working hard around the glass. That at the end of the year, or at some point, they would always offer their assistants a 1-year extension. And nobody said no. And they knew that Sean Payton was going to be a dude when he was like, no.
Yeah.
He just wasn't. He was going to sign the extension because he just thought different. And he did a really, really good job there. Who scored that one? That was
Livingston. So the Hawks have really ballooned this lead up to 15 already in the first half. Halfway through the first half, 8 minutes to play. So Amery going to do the best they can to chip away at this lead. Like we mentioned, I'm sure a lot of these girls have some teammates that are playing exclusively varsity. So it's always hard, as you get into high school, seeing some of your maybe best players take some levels up as the program needs. We're going to have a timeout, a little break in the action. 17-2, BW with the advantage.
Did you see today reports out of Vegas is that they're going to interview Josh McDaniels?
No, that's interesting.
And Josh McDaniels, obviously, offensive coordinator of the Patriots, who fizzled in his one gig. I'm trying to think of who he was the head coach
Colts.
of. But he accepted the Colts job, but he backed out. He was the head coach somewhere, I want to say, for a couple years, and then was out. But what he's done in New England, and that's definitely a long branch of the Bill Parcells coaching tree is the Bill Belichick branch.
Yeah.
And McDaniels has basically been waiting for the perfect job.
Yeah, it's interesting how the Belichick coaching tree. There's been a number of busts, let's say, and I'm not saying that all of them haven't been successful, but in head coaching positions,
Ooh, 1-3-1 here.
it's been less than successful in quite a few different scenarios, and so I'm curious to see. A lot of those have been defensive coaches. I'm might be almost exclusively defensive coaches, with Patricia and the Lions, Joe Judge now with the Giants, ex Giants head coach. It'll be interesting to see how McDaniels does, because Tom Brady has been vocal about how instrumental he was in their success offensively, and I'm sure Mac Jones is, you know, soaking everything up he possibly can. Um, but offensive coordinators have a huge role in the success of a team. It'll be interesting to see how much that changes the kind of the dynamic there if he does get a different job. But
So Joe Judge was a disaster.
really bad.
Who else did you mention? Patricia.
At the Lions, yeah.
But he's back. He's back with Detroit, or excuse me, back with the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm just speaking in a head coaching role. They're obviously very, very good at their respective position coaching coordinators. But it's a testament to your point earlier, how much more than just coaching football being a head coach is.
Right.
And how that's a very big deal.
I'm trying to find. I mean, I don't know if you'd consider Mike Vrabel off of the Belichick coaching tree, because he played for Belichick, but coached under someone else. He's having all sorts of success in Tennessee.
Yeah, I guess I was just speaking to people that coach under Belichick.
But there's so many. Like Bill O'Brien was under Belichick. And for me too, when he was rumored to go to Jacksonville, I'm like, Bill O'Brien was the worst.
Yeah.
He was the worst GM. But he took some bad Texans teams to the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know if I wouldn't say that he took them. I think they had some really good defenses for a while there, and Deshaun Watson was very successful.
This was pre-Watson.
But the point being that proximity to greatness, especially a specific type of greatness, which Belichick is, the Patriot way is infamous at this point. And it's, it may not be a ton of fun to be here, but winning is fun, right? And that is definitely a recipe for success, i.e. the Patriots. But unless you are the level of genius that Bill Belichick is, it's really hard to get a room full of grown men to embrace, a culture that is going to be very different from what they're used to, and probably a little bit, like I mentioned, a little bit less fun. And that's what we've seen, is that But yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, when you talk about the CEO portion of being a head coach, the rumors, the reporting out of Bill O'Brien, Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, is that by the end of it all, pretty much nobody in the building liked them anymore, and that's why they're not there anymore. You know. Now, do they know football? 100%. And I think that's, to your point of Bill O'Brien, they knew football to a point where they could win some games. But when you got J.J. Watt almost trying to fight you, it's not good.
Yeah, because he's obviously at Alabama now. He's COC, and so there's rumors that if McDaniels leaves, that's who they call.
Yeah.
He becomes the new OC in New England.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I've heard too, that I think makes the Belichick tree so fruitful, is that if he thinks a guy is going to be a head coach, he makes them, like, he gives them the crash course on how to do it. Like the linebacker coach ahead, Gerard Mayo, former linebacker, who's their kind of de facto D coordinator. Like, they do what they can. He does what he can to get these people ready to be the head coach somewhere. And Belichick, he failed miserably in his first go around as a head coach.
Yeah.
The Browns?
Yeah, bad.
Yeah.
What team was it where he resigned? Like
Jets.
Was it on like a napkin or something? Is that true?
I don't remember, but yeah, he was.
He wrote it, quit on a napkin or something.
He was the Jets head coach for like 2 days.
Yeah.
Why did he more money, or why did he leave?
Well, Parcells was still in New England, and Parcells had some pull. And I think the idea that he was going to go compete against Bill Belichick in his division, Bill Parcells probably said, "Yeah, try it."
Yeah.
I don't know. There's an interesting dynamic because head coaches like to see their coordinators get head coaching jobs. And even though you're losing someone that's really good, it's a very interesting dynamic. 23-2.
That's
right
why
now.
I think was it you or did I read online about the Bears' offensive coordinator job being maybe the best place in the NFL right now for someone to go, because if you can develop Justin Fields,
You can get a head coaching job.
you can get a coaching job. The problem is, and we talked about this with the offensive coordinator, is scheme. When your offensive coordinator leaves, your scheme it's harder to. That's why I think Vic Fangio maybe. I don't know if that was entirely him, but I don't know. We just hired a D coordinator, the Bears, Colts, yeah.
The D coordinator to be their head coach, yeah.
So I don't know. And apparently they want to bring Rod Marinelli back.
Yeah, it's a little bit of what you know. It's a lot of bit of who you know.
I think of Andy Reid, because how many offensive coordinators
has
he gotten a head coaching job for?
Well, Matt Nagy was.
I mean, absolutely. And can't think of who was before Nagy, but who was before Nagy? I've been right with the Alex Smith. Alex Smith did very well in Kansas City.
Yeah, but then why is Eric Bieniemy not a head coach?
It's not like he has a bad. If you look on Wikipedia, there's a handful of things he was arrested for, and not atrocious like some people who are even playing in the NFL. But I thought someone had said maybe that.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Well, and not all GMs and or owners are created equal. There's some very, very good businessmen that vet their hires in important ways that maybe, like you mentioned, don't have a ton to do about football, but more about their leadership skills and organizational skills. But yeah, there's some that have a long resume of success because they do their due diligence. Maybe they don't hire the most popular coach. Like the more that comes out about Shad Khan at Jacksonville and Urban is like they were interviewing people as an obligation. It wasn't. They were going to hire Urban Meyer regardless because it was a big name who had a lot of success, obviously. But everywhere that Urban Meyer left, shortly after, went through a short crash and burn process, and that will probably continue.
The other thing too is what you read about Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah.
Like he was his background like in dancing. You read that article?
No.
Yeah, he's got took like hip hop dance until he was.
I've heard he's a ton of fun. That's what people around the building in the Packers said. He was like just the best to be around. Aaron Rodgers loves him.
Yep. But the like, I don't remember who said it. One of the players said when you talk about building culture, like Nathaniel Hackett's not going to build a culture because he's a walking culture.
Absolutely.
And it's like, yeah, that sounds like the guy that you want. And the concerns about hiring a head coach that's never called plays. It's like that's not what they're not looking for an X and O guy.
Right.
He's going to have having coached for a number of teams. The Jaguars at one point, and then he was let go of, I think, from Buffalo when they made some coaching changes. Like he's got a network of people that he's going to be able to call on, and if he's as well liked as what it seems like he is, there's going to be people that want to come coach on the staff.
Yeah, one thing that I know all three of us know from coaching is kids and athletes, and I'm assuming people, and definitely going into adulthood. It's so easy to tell when people are not being authentic.
Right.
When somebody's trying to be something they aren't, whether it's a hard, somebody who is more rigid and more, X's and O's tries to be a personality, it's awkward. And when
Right.
a personality tries to be, the yeller, more rigid guy, it's awkward. And so whether you're one or the other, if you do that at a really high level, you're going to have success because
Right.
the athletes will buy in. Um, and the part that when it comes to leadership, that people, it just never comes up.
Whoa.
What was
The
that?
girl lost her shoe and it went flying up into the
I
stands.
was wondering what that was.
Yeah, that was the Amery girl. That went. I thought somebody threw it.
No, it was like
I thought it was a towel.
it was like on her foot, and I think she tried to like move quick, and it flipped off her toe and almost took out. Who is that up there?
Yeah, I
Someone
think it
hit-
landed near the.
It landed next to Robin Jensen.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think at the highest levels, they're obviously more receptive to certain things. That's why college coaches don't always transition well into the NFL.
Yeah. But to finish with that, the power of delegation.
Oh yeah,
You need to understand what you're really good at, and then find people around you, hire people around you that are good at maybe the things that you're not as good at, and then
Right.
delegate to them. It's not rocket science, but nobody talks about it. But it's 25-4.
Yep.
It's been a very dominant half for the Blackhawks here. We're gonna turn off the mics for about 10 minutes. You probably wish we would have about 10 minutes ago. But nonetheless, 21-point lead for the Hawks. See you in about 10. All right, welcome back to Blackhawk TV's presentation of Baldwin Woodville hosting the Amery Warriors. Really nice first half for BW, up 25-4. So we're going to see some more zone from Amery. I would say we lost focus, but we never really were focused in that first half about the game, which happens during JV games. During the varsity contest, which will be on the same stream.
Nope. I got a different stream tonight.
Okay, so we're back to having two separate streams. So we'll be on a separate stream on Blackhawk TV's YouTube channel. We promise to do our best to give you as a professional presentation as we can, professional production as we can, and we've done that for almost a couple of years now. So looking forward to that. But yeah, we got another 16 minutes of JV action. Some real nice first half play from a number of Hawks. Mara Nygaard had a handful of points. Elke really getting after it under the boards. Livingston doing a really nice job with the defensive end, as she always does. So, and I think back to, to focus on BW girls hoops. There's a lot of there's definitely a lot of talent, I think, because there's going to be a huge conversation in the off season. I'm sure between the coaching staffs and between parents of these players, like how exactly do you fit pieces together going forward? Because losing 3-year starters is going to be not easy, and a lot of contributors, and losing some like you don't understand what it's like to lose Brooke Klatt till you lose Brooke Klatt.
Right.
Like just steady, right? Anna George, same thing. Maddie Jensen, it's and Grosskreutz and names like that where it's been a long time since they haven't been here, and it'll be interesting to see how exactly Coach English plugs in some of these JV contributors.
Yeah, and I think, obviously Haley Jort, who started a majority of the season, is a freshman, and Marnie, who started for Marnie even started a little bit as a freshman, maybe for sure last year. It's like, so you're gonna lose a lot of seniors, the seniors, but you're gonna bring back two girls that have started a ton of games.
Right.
And you're not gonna realize how much you need Brooke Klatt till she's gone, which is entirely true. But the two girls that are gonna return are backcourt players.
Right.
The thing that I'm most interested to see, what we have, in my opinion, the strength of the upcoming group, when you look at these girls specifically, is length on the wing.
Right.
With Raya and Marin and Maggie, you have three pretty dynamic wing players.
Yep.
And Raya is going to find herself on the block a lot with Anna and Maddie leaving, because of graduation. And you're going to be able to plug Stella in, who's going to be, the stronger, more of the center role. And I think that might be, kind of the silver lining, is you're going to have more diversified group.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to Coach Carroll about, the boys basketball team yesterday, how, the last year we coached, we had a lot of guys, but, I think of the Zach Nielsen's, the Andrew Klopps, the Keegan as a freshman. They were all their skill sets were very similar.
Right.
Right? The types of players that you had that kind of, not necessarily were redundant, but didn't offer different strengths than other guys. And this year you look at the boys team, and you have Cam, who is different than Mason. Right? And you have Caleb, who's different than both of them. You have Eli, who's different than everybody. You have Sean, who's you have nine guys that play that all offer a different strength to the team.
Yep.
And when you look at our girls this year, like Anna and Maddie are both very, very good on the block. But as far as how they complement each other, it's not the most ideal, high-low. against a zone, because they both do well what they do well, and those things I think are relatively the same.
Sure.
Next year, if those two are Stella and Raya, they complement each other because they have different games.
Yeah, for sure.
Raya's springy, and Stella's just going to be able to push people around. And then if you put some of the long, even Haley Coda, like Haley Coda is a point guard versus Haley Jort or Marnie as a point guard,
right?
They're different.
Right.
And I think that's the fun thing. Shannon Fritz is going to be a freshman. Beth Nielsen's going to be a freshman. Schomer was telling me there was a girl that moved from Central who's an 8th grader that's good.
Ella Rhodey.
Like, you're going to have different types of skills that really make... No, that's...
Can't do that.
Yeah, but that counts because...
Oh. She stepped before the shot, so I don't know if it's...
Yep. White ball, lane violation on white, red point counts.
Yeah, and the thing for me that is going to be interesting to watch and hopefully interesting to call will be how quickly Coach English is able to mold that new group together in what's going to be a very competitive middle border.
Yeah, for sure.
Because right now the middle border is loaded with young talent, like loaded.
Yep.
And there's going to be teams next year, notably Ellsworth, Osceola, Altoona, that just bring back player of the year type players.
Yep.
And so there will be, the first time around against teams like that, there's not going to be time to, make egregious mistakes. There's not going to be possessions you can give away. And so, it's about a lot more than wins and losses, especially when you've got a younger team. It's about how you develop that talent throughout the season to be playing the best basketball possible, down the stretch. But it's going to be a super competitive conference, and it's already been a super competitive conference this year. I mean, there's 3 teams a half game out of first place. It's 6-2. Altoona's at 7-2 right now. And next year, a lot of the top half there is coming back, with the exception of a handful of starters for BW. So I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the way that Coach Benoit's been able to meld together different types of talent with the boys and having success. Hopefully, Coach English is able to, do a little bit of that. And I think, she's got Coach Com under her, who has a lot of knowledge of these girls and some of their skill sets over the last couple of years. So it'll be fun. It'll be absolutely a ton of fun to watch. This one still at about a 20-point lead for BW. Amery stuck in that zone. BW trying to do their best to penetrate it. Nice hands there by the Warriors. We're about almost 5.5 minutes into it.
But on that free throw, if she misses, she gets another attempt.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
The one thing too, like you said about the youngsters in the conference, this is really the big transition year, because Prescott lost Bella Lines.
Mm-hmm.
Ellsworth lost Autumn Ernie. Now Richmond, who I think was the runners-up in the conference, or at least were the highest seed in our little sub-regional last year, left the conference. So this was really the year where things were, and we said it early, they're wide open. Like any team could do it.
And it's panned out that way.
And next year, I think you're right. I mean, the teams that are higher, the top half of the conference, are going to return mostly intact, with the exception of us losing 3 starters and 4 contributors. But hey, things are can go crazy at any second.
Absolutely. I mean, St. Croix Central boys lost the most talent a boys team's lost in a long time. At least in the top 5 in that category in the middle border in a long time. After coming off of a state trip with Seiler, Klin, Pettit, and company, and they've been able to almost exactly replicate the record from a year ago at this moment. And it's a different type of success, and it's a different type of team, but it can be done, and it'll be fun to watch Coach English attack that challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you wonder too if is there any chance Maddie Monica comes back out for basketball?
Right.
Because she is.
She'd be a huge difference maker.
Well, even this year, she would have complemented this group so well.
I can think of for the boys. I think his first name Feedy last year. I don't think he did it as a junior. Did he?
Correct.
Yep. And then he came back as a senior and helped out off the bench.
Yeah.
I don't know if she.
Yeah, I don't know. It's same with will Cal Smith come back out?
Yeah.
Like there are people walking around the halls that will help, and that it's so hard to see. And I think back to the days of when I was in high school, and that was the thing that we always had a really good football team. We had 15, 16 years straight of making the playoffs. And there were guys that walked around the hall that just weren't playing a fall sport. And we've added so many sports in all the seasons. And I think that the number of people that aren't playing sports that could really be difference makers in sports in the season that they're not playing is pretty minimal. But when you see someone like Maddie Monica not playing which sport, Cal Smith not playing which sport, like you know that it's like, come on, we're not a school big enough where we can specialize.
No.
And we're certainly not a school big enough where we can afford for premier athletes to just not play. And I get there's reasons that you don't, and I get it. And I don't mean to call out those two by any means, but as a football coach that saw that happen when I coached football, and as a basketball coach who saw a little bit of that, and that was the thing too. I think Abish, Landon Albrightson, like those guys would have certainly helped out the basketball team. They were really good hockey players.
Right.
And so, I felt pretty good about our tenure that we didn't have a lot of basketball players in the school that were just choosing to not play a sport.
Yeah. Yep.
Did Amery have a good girls volley? Or where did they rank in the conference? Amery's volleyball
this year?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay, I'm just curious because their cross country team is.
All right, rise up and dunk, Mar.
Nice finish for.
She jumps like her mom.
Nygaard, but and I think there's some schools that have really hit the sweet spot when it comes to amount of programs, the sports programs within a school. Like Durand's a great example of a school that they don't offer soccer. Right. They no longer offer tennis. They don't offer, this multitude of opportunities. Don't offer hockey. But what they do is they always finish in the top half of football, of basketball, both boys and girls basketball. They always finish in the top half of some of the bigger time women's sports, and because of that, they're a household name in in the Dun St. Croix, and they were a household name in the Middle Border when they were here. That would 100% change. It might not change drastically, but it would change if they had a hockey program, if they had a soccer program, if they had tennis program still. Spring sports it's a unique season for people that are around high school sports a lot. It's markedly different than fall and winter, just because there's so many, and it's just not the lights don't shine nearly as bright all the time. High school basketball games, it's a big deal. High school football games, it's an even bigger deal. There's only 9 of them. So, but with spring sports, you can have a number of different athletes try out a sport for the first time in high school, like try out track because maybe they're sick of baseball, try out tennis because they're sick of track. But in the primary seasons of fall and winter, it can be detrimental to have all these different things that a school that only has 430 kids offers.
Does Ellsworth have soccer?
No.
When did Ellsworth take the Middle Border crown from Central?
Yeah.
When Central added soccer?
Well, they took it from us, but yeah, we'd had soccer.
But like just the weird cycle of you add a fall sport.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I mean, it's.
And that's why, I mean, people will, well, New Richmond's been in the conference, and they have, well, that's because for people that don't pay attention to enrollments, New Richmond has 2 times as many
Right.
athletes.
Right.
The fact that they weren't, all, like, all offense to New Richmond fans listening, you should have been walking over the schools in the Middle Border
Absolutely.
for 2 decades.
Yep.
It's hilarious that you weren't. And when you guys had the success you did, when New Richmond had the success they did with Joey Kidder, those teams, it was like, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
But it was a ton of fun beating you guys for a lot of years when we weren't supposed to. So, and what's unfortunate for football coaches throughout the Middle Border now is a much scarier program, in my opinion.
Goodness, yes.
Rice Lake coming in, because they're smaller than Richmond, but have been the hungry, kind of the hungry dog in that Big Rivers for a while and have had a ton of success. They played in the dang state championship game last year. They're going to be in the conference now, and you know, the Tigers didn't always bite that hard, but the Rice Lake Warriors, they are going to be a tough outfit to prepare for, and they're going to win a lot of games in the Middle Border, a lot of games.
Yep, that's going to be.
Oh,
that's a collision. And unlike New Richmond, which was a relatively close drive, Rice Lake's not close.
Yeah.
That's going to be even worse.
Yeah, but shout out to New Richmond. I know that it's been a tough winter for you guys, but I really, to maybe give them some credit, I really like their head football coach. Reggie Larson's a really good dude.
Yep.
He's a really good coach, and they've got a really good staff there. They're gonna, and they already have. They're gonna compete at a high level in the Big Rivers for a long time.
My first interaction with Reggie, aside from coaching, you know, a team that he played on, coaching against a team he played on, I was in Prescott, I believe, coaching middle school basketball, and game was really well officiated by a younger guy, and I just went up to him after the game and I said, hey, I just want to tell you, I thought you did a phenomenal job, and if you want to, you know, you're someone that I think could do this at a higher level. And he's like, it was Reggie.
Yeah.
He's like, this is my 3rd time I've ever reffed.
Yeah.
And he did a really, really good job of you know, calling things fair both ways, letting kids play a little bit, but at the 8th grade level also doing a good job of enforcing the rules that 8th graders like to not follow. And
yeah.
And so it didn't surprise me when he was named the head coach in New Richmond, and it didn't surprise me at all when they had, you know, some success, because I think he's just a good dude.
Yeah, New Richmond's a program to look out for in the Big Rivers for sure. On the football front, basketball is going to be an interesting development, just because the Big Rivers is so dang stacked, in my opinion, from a coach's perspective. Like, there's just some really good coaches in that conference. Like what Coach Campbell, like we're homers, we're Zach Campbell homers for sure. We're big fans of him. You're good friends with him. But what he's doing with the talent they have, not that they don't have talent, but like
they lost.
There was nobody that was coming back where we're like, yeah, they can hang their hat. And now it's Ethan Campbell, I don't know how you say it, but like he's averaging 13. And the Schumacher kid, he's doing his deal. It's like Sherman, rather.
He was the only starter that they brought back from
exactly, and they lost 3 of the most productive players in the history of River Falls High School basketball, and he's just doing the dang thing.
Yep.
And then obviously Oakland Memorial, they've got 3 kids that are going to be playing basketball for a long time, in Bosser, and then the 2 guards. And yeah, I mean that's a tough conference to play basketball in for sure. Eau Claire North always seems to find a way to get back to being competitive. But yeah, I mean.
Yeah, Sherman and Landgraf were the 2 contributors to their team last year, and Campbell played a little bit. But the thing too that surprised me is he was a really good football player, and I didn't realize that. The Sherman kid, I think, was a really good football player. Like, they have a number of kids, a number of football players that were really good football players at a school that size, that then become really good contributors on a surprisingly good Big Rivers basketball team.
Yeah, I think River Falls took it. I mean, they've just been really blessed with some. Well, they've done a really good job of hiring really good coaches at different sports positions. But they had a run where they were kind of the redheaded stepchild of the River Falls Hudson rivalry.
Yep.
Like Hudson was just this icon of like we're pretty much Woodbury light, and we just beat everybody. And River Falls has taken that. They took that personally and have really kind of taken that underdog role and built something. They're not going to hang with Hudson enrollment-wise. I would anticipate just because Hudson is a suburb of the Twin Cities at this point. But they've done a really nice job. They've got, like we mentioned, so many good coaches there now. A friend of yours and somebody I've gotten to know recently, Matt Smith, they're coaching football again. He's a great football mind. He coached me at the All-Star game, and it's just so fun to be around.
Yeah, he's a CEO type of guy.
He's a CEO guy, but he's a guy that, as a high school athlete, it's fun getting coached by him. Like it's fun. It's not. He's never going to put you down. He's going to build you up. He's going to give you things to work on. But the more coaches like that you can have, the better. And then you got Zach Campbell at the basketball floor, who we thought he'd probably be the best Campbell in the gym. Who knows? With Ethan Campbell, but.
Well, and that's what's funny is, because it's his cousin.
Is it really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's Bob's brother's kid. And so that first time I watched him, I'm like, well, he's got to take a charge.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I realized how old we were, and that Ethan is, probably maybe 18, and Zach graduated 18 years ago.
Yeah.
So maybe as a 2-year-old got to see him play at St. Cloud, but for the most part didn't even know he existed as a basketball player. Yeah, I'll get some more insight on the River Falls basketball program. Zach and I are gonna be doing some stuff together this weekend, so hopefully he had a good week after the Packers lost.
No kidding.
I mean, as a basketball coach, and even with Dan coaching football, it's like that. You don't have a lot of time to not think about your team.
Correct.
So you get one guilty pleasure, and for a lot of coaches, it's a football team that plays, in the NFL. And so when they don't do well, that's supposed to be what you enjoy.
Right.
And then you get to watch them lay an egg.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest egg that, well, Favre losing to the Eli Manning-led Giants in 2007 that still sticks out to me.
That was the really, really cold game?
NFC Championship game where Favre it was Favre's last game as a Packer. He threw a pick in overtime on the first series of the first drive of overtime. It was terrible.
That wasn't the really, really, really cold game.
That was the really, really cold game.
That was Favre that was the quarterback in that game?
Yep, in 2007. Yep. And Eli went on. That was his first ring.
Was that the undefeated Patriots?
Yep.
Seems like it wasn't that long ago.
But yeah, I mean, scoring one offensive touchdown at home at Lambeau is not ideal when you have the quote-unquote MVP. So, but I'm a Bengals fan and have been for a long time, and so it's going to be an exciting weekend watching Burrow chasing the boys.
Yeah, you have been forever.
It's amazing. All credit to Joey Burrow, but it's amazing the wide receiver core he had at LSU.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Imagine what practice. Imagine being a freshman corner, in your first scout team reps, and you're like.
But there was an article in the Athletic yesterday that the LSU D always beat the offense.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Okay.
41-21 final for the JV game. We're going to join you in about. What time is it? Well, we'll see. We're going to join you on the varsity stream here between 25 minutes from now for the varsity portion of tonight's matchup between the Hawks and the Warriors. Thanks for joining us. We will see you soon.